So welcome everybody. I think we'll get started and then we'll see if more people join us during the webinar. I would like to welcome you all to our BMS and TMS webinar. Which letters do you need for your business? So today we are going to try to define and all these acronyms and initialism that populate our screens if you work in the language industry. So this webinar is in partnership with Plunet. And just before starting, I would like to run some very quick housekeeping rules. All the attendees to the webinar, you are muted. So if you have any questions for me or for Sophie, please feel free to use the Q&A button on the bar below. And please do not use the chat because it might be harder for Sophie and I to track your questions. So use the Q&A button and we will try to answer the questions during the webinar. We might not have the time to give 5 minutes or 10 minutes space to answering your questions. So if you do not receive an answer during the webinar, we'll make sure to contact you to answer to your questions. Okay, so let's start. I'll start introducing myself. My name is Alessio De Martis, and I'm the Business Development Manager for memoQ in North America. If you do not know memoQ, we are a company that was founded in 2004 by 3 translators. And now we are all over the world with almost 100 employees, and we have headquarters in Budapest, in Bonn, in Tokyo, and in Toronto. We have already more than 40,000 users and more than 1,000 servers operating all over the world. We are an independent company, meaning that we do not sell translation services. We sell a translation product, a TMS. And also, according to NIMDZ, which is a market research consulting company with a specific focus on the language industry, we are right now the first top of mind TMS solution. And today we are here with Sophie Halbeisen, and she's the Director of Business Development for Plunet. So hello, Sophie, and thank you for joining us
Hi.
today.
Thank you, Alessio. Yeah, I will also give a quick intro to Plunet for everybody who doesn't know our company yet. We were founded in 2003, so very similar time on the market. We are more than 60 employees spread around the world. Our main offices are in Berlin, Würzburg, and New York City, which is where I'm located. And we are also an independent company, also do not offer any language services. We are only in the space of software development, and we currently serve around 450 customers worldwide. And our product is specialized in the language industry only.
Great. So let's have a quick look at the topics that we will talk about today. We will start analyzing what is in a name or what is in a bunch of letters, all these letters that we normally see related to how to manage and run a business in the language industry. We will get that in detail and we will see exactly what a business management system does. Then we will see what a translation management system does, and we'll wrap up with a demo and trying to sum up why it's beneficial for you to have both a translation memory system, a translation management system, and a business management system. So let's start and let's try to give a definition to the most common acronyms and initialisms. It depends on in the language industry. The most famous one, and probably the one that you're most familiarized with, is CAT tool. A CAT tool, it's a computer-assisted or a computer-aided translation tool. It's a software that allows a user to work with a bilingual text. So a source text, the text that you want to translate, and the target text, which is the translation. It normally includes a translation memory, a term base, and sometimes a machine translation option and a QA.
Yeah, and then let's go to probably the least famous one, BMS. That's kind of an acronym that came a little later to the game because systems like Plunet yeah, have been named TMS for a really long time. And we actually, including ourselves in that, we also sometimes call our system a translation management system because that's exactly how it started, managing translations. However, it's not really accurate. It's actually a system that manages a business because in a system like Plunet, you run your business, your administrations, and your operations, but not actually the production. The production is done outside of the tool. And that's what we will also talk about, how the production or different production environments can be integrated with the business management tool. So I often get the question, what's the difference? Why do you need both? And I think the easiest way to describe it is that you have a business management tool to follow and achieve your business strategy. So it's the database management, vendor and customer management, PO creation, invoicing. So everything to really run and administer your business and not to actually do the translation or to, yeah, do your production.
Okay, translation management system, on the other hand, is that software that supports the management of complex translations and translation projects, particularly multilingual projects. So it allows companies to centralize and automate all the workflows involved in a localization project, giving also the opportunity to create a collaboration environment where linguists working from all over the world can work simultaneously on the same project. It can also help, of course, to consolidate and manage linguistic resources, to monitor the workflow and to track the process of a project. And it fosters the collaboration between project manager, translator, and also additional linguistic part in a project. So let's start diving in detail, and let's see what a business management system exactly does.
Yes. So for the business management system, of course, there are a couple of things that overlap, especially when it comes to workflow management, because a system like Plunet also has a very strong workflow component that, when it comes to linguistic steps, is connected to memoQ. So that's why I want to concentrate a little bit about on everything that comes before the translation and before the workflow, and then after the translation, because we will cover the actual translation workflow as well in the TMS portion. So what comes before? So before you even start a project, you have your database management, customer relationship management, and the request intake and quoting. So I want to talk about that a little bit. So generally, what is important for a business management system is to know that there's so many different stakeholders that are logging in to Plunet. So it's not just that we have project managers and linguists that are logging in and doing work there. The stakeholders can include the customers, external vendors, internal vendors, um, completely different types of internal team members, like project managers, but also sales staff, quality managers, vendor managers. The company owner logs in, and we also work with IT staff and accounting staff that logs in. So a lot of different stakeholders are logging in. And running a translation agency is actually a quite complex thing to do, because you constantly work on new projects. You have projects that come in, deadlines to follow. So that's why the BMS is there, not only to manage the translation workflow, but everything that goes around, so you can actually manage a good business strategy with it. So let's start with the first thing, database management. So in your business management system, you have all of your contacts, so your database of vendors and clients. That's extremely important because you need to be flexible when it comes to your customers, because project managers need to know everything about their clients, but you also need your sales staff to log in, so you can manage that database. Especially if you have ongoing projects with them, it's always good to look to see what has been done for this client before, having all of that historical data in there, but also having an idea of how customers are classified for reporting later when it comes to domains, etc. And then the vendor database. Of course, you also have a vendor database in your TMS, but the vendor database in Plunet goes a little above that, gives HR and vendor managers or quality managers as well access to all of the valuable insights for resources. That, of course, can be their quality, how good they are, and also which domains they cover, what kind of certifications they have, if they are certified, ISO certified, for example, or if you work with interpreters, you might need to know if they have a vaccination to go to a certain hospital. So there's a lot of information that is all stored in that database. Then the next part is we have the database covered. We get a request from a client. So a request can come in from a new customer or an existing customer, and there are different ways on taking that request. And also depends on the client you work with, how they like to send you requests. So it can be done manually by the customer through the customer portal. You can set up different customer portals for different clients based on their needs. And of course, you can also get a request through a third-party system, like a content management system, or from your website, and make these connections with our API. So all of that still before a project has even started. And of course, then it comes to quoting. Quoting is also a huge component of Plunet because you have all of your rates stored in the system. And you can have price lists that are completely different per client, per service you're offering, per domain. So you can have thousands of price lists, and I'm saying that because I know some of our clients do, for all of the different services you offer. And these price lists will be connected with your CAT analysis results, because the CAT tool knows the word count. The CAT tool knows how many fuzzy matches you have, but Plunet knows how to price them per client and per domain, or a combination of all of these things, and of course per language combination. And of course, you can create multiple quote versions. So if you want to offer a customer different options, you can all do that in the system as well. Yeah, then hopefully their quotes get accepted. We will also talk about that in a little bit, and you start the workflow. But what happens after the workflow? That's also a big part that is completely managed in the business management tool. So when it comes to invoicing, you can manage the invoices for your customers as well as for your vendors. On the customer side, based on the project data, you can just send out invoices through the system. All of the needed information from the client side, taxes, currencies will be pulled from their profile. And you can also do completely automatic payable creation in the system once a month for your vendors. Or your vendors can log into their portal and based on the PO, create invoices in the system with just 2 clicks, which is a huge help. And yeah, also very important component because you definitely want to make sure that your invoices are correct. Handing over to TMS.
Perfect. Thank you, Sophie. The glitch over here, of course. So let's look into what a translation management system does. We'll see that a translation management system, it's basically the hub, the link between the customers, the translation service providers, the freelance translators, terminologists, reviewers, and correctors. Basically everybody that takes part in a translation or a localization project. The central components are, as we've seen for the CAT tool, a translation memory that tends to be normally customer specific or project specific, a terminology database, and the actual translation tool. And a TMS, it also provides translation and quality management functions. And because of its architecture, it has the capability to connect different systems together via interfaces. So you can, for example, connect a TMS with a content management or product information management platform, or a machine translation, or even with authoring assistant platforms. Basically, in this way, what you can do, you can create a process chain that you can set up to exchange data seamlessly. The first benefit of a translation management system is probably the workflow management and the automation. So this includes automating all processes, managing documents, and facilitating the communication, as we mentioned, between everybody that's taking part to your project. So it generally speeds things up and makes everything less costly. We will see a bit more in detail how automation works for memoQ later. But if you're working, for example, with a content management system, a CMS, you can, so you're publishing content constantly to a website, and well, in that case, the TMS can be set up to automatically grab those files, that new content, and assign it automatically to the translator so that your audience is always up to date with what you're publishing. So this is a perfect solution for website localization and also video games localization. Obviously, another big part of the TMS is the translation memory management. Translation management systems, they always handle all of these database centrally. So the database of these phrases and segments that we've seen, it's a translation memory, it's actually managed centrally and on the fly. And that's the main difference between a TMS and an offline CAT tool. Which makes the whole process much more streamlined and faster. Together with the translation memories, we also have the terminology database management. These are very important to manage the translation of specific terms, often company names, brands, and it is very important to maintain a terminology database because it helps you to ensure consistency, for example, in branding across different regions or different languages. And it also helps you to organize terms with a clear set of rules so that the translators and the reviewers, they know how to use them. As a reference, it is estimated that 40% of the translation time is actually spent on terminology research. So that's definitely a very important side of your projects that you can manage efficiently. Something that it's been talked about more and more, it's the use of machine translation. So most modern TMS offer API connectors for popular machine translation providers. So the machine translation term refers to a fully automated software that can translate source content into target languages. So human translator may use this type of technology to help them render text and speech in another language, or MT software can also be used without any human intervention. This really depends on the type of project you are handling, and it's sometimes easier for human translators to edit and work on a machine translation than to come up with an entire translation from scratch. This could be, for example, the case for instructions or catalogs. So why the combination of a business management system and a translation management system is beneficial for your business?
Yeah, let me start on the BMS side. It's actually kind of funny because, yeah, of course, we kind of all follow the same goal. We want to make sure that our customers are more successful and can run successful business, and of course, save time and cost by using a system. But when we actually really looked at the benefits of having a system like Plunet, we realized that there are actually other benefits than we thought. So reducing time and cost were actually not the most, yeah, the biggest benefits our customers were reporting back after implementing Plunet. So let's start with why you have a business management system. One of the things is you want to grow your revenue, and a system like a business management system can actually help you with that. One thing is having a customer portal, and with that, a more professional system setup. And that has actually helped a lot of our clients when it came to closing deals, because customers were expecting a customer portal, customers were expecting a customizable portal, and having a system that is specifically made for that really helped, yeah, closing deals, winning RFIs. And for customers who want to go into specific spaces, for example, when we think about healthcare where security requirements are very strict, a tool can certainly help close the deal on something that was hard to get before. So that's, of course, one of my favorites, but another one is actually increasing your bottom line and increasing your profits. Of course, with reports, you see things and you can make strategic business decision out of based on that. So you have all of that real-time data on profits, for example, and we have customers who really made decisions after seeing which of their projects were actually profitable. So one of my favorite stories was one of my clients who actually realized after implementing Plunet that they had 4 customers that weren't profitable. And they had never realized that before because they managed their projects in spreadsheets, but they never had the real-time data to actually see, these are my costs, these are my hours, and this is what I'm making in revenue. So based on that information, he went to all of these customers and talked to them. And with 2, he negotiated to increase the rates, and the customers were totally fine doing that. And with the other 2 customers, he just parted ways, and his bottom line went up. And even though maybe the revenue went down a little bit, he actually had more profits at the end of the year, which is great because in the end of the day, as important as revenue is, profits are the most important. And of course, you can also set yourself goals. So we have customers who give their project managers really clear goals of what profit margin to reach. And it's always easier if you actually have all of that documented. But then, of course, we also want to reduce cost. If you implement a tool, of course, it's usually a big investment. We see a clear cost reduction in IT cost for everybody who had their own system before. So all of our clients who did their own developments, the moment they go for a system like Plunet, an out-of-the-box tool, the cost for software immediately go down. However, for everybody who used Excel and email before, of course, it's an investment. But it's actually really cool to see that there's also other cost reductions other than just the cost for software. For example, when it comes to accounting. So a lot of our customers see after implementing Plunet, because everything goes from PO, quote PO to the invoice, that they're not making mistakes in accounting anymore, or very limited mistakes. So because of the data accuracy on the accounting side, the human error goes down. So paying the wrong amount to vendors, undercharging a customer, maybe overcharging a client, all of these things that can lead to really losses in revenue can be completely reduced. So we had clients who actually saw a cost reduction just because of that. And then, of course, there's the time-saving component. We have one customer who stopped the time with Plunet without memoQ integration, with Plunet and the memoQ integration, and Plunet and the dynamic memoQ integration, and actually saw that there is a 70% time saving just from working with Plunet and the connector. So you definitely do save time as well. But you also save time just by centralizing data, making all of the data on your business available to everybody from anywhere, based on their rights, of course, based on the information you want to share. So you don't need to search for data anymore. You don't need to always ask everybody what happened to the client, because you have the data centralized. And of course, when you standardize your processes in a tool, you can also service your clients quicker, because there are not that many questions. There's not that many ways to go. Standardizing processes, of course, saves time. And lastly, the onboarding process, also something we didn't even intend. But now that Plunet is so widely used, our customers actually are saving time when onboarding new staff, because they have videos, or they even have people who already know the system. So onboarding a new staff member is quicker.
Okay, great. So, what happens then on the TMS side and on the memoQ side? What are the main benefits of using a TMS? Among the main ones, as we mentioned, there's probably automation. You can automate advanced workflows through the creation of what we call project templates, and that's exactly how we interface with Plunet. TMS can automate not only the linguistic side of your project with things such as assigning translation memories, term bases, running QAs, but it can also help with the actual automation of the project workflow using specific trigger actions to get your workflow going. For example, you can set your project to when you receive the delivery from a reviewer, you can automatically run a spell check and a QA and send it to the final editor or directly to the client. Another benefit is obviously the translation management side of it, which includes very, very advanced features. You can, for example, manage the term bases inside your projects. You can add and remove terms. You can set forbidden terms, as well as creating moderated items that, for example, have to be approved by your client before being used in the translation. And at the same time, you can really work on your translation memories, running concordance searches, context searches, or even fragmented assembly, which is basically the TMS helps you, memoQ helps you to scan your translation memories. And even if the whole segment hasn't been translated and saved into your TM, but maybe a part was, memoQ can identify that and propose it to you while you are translating. Third benefits, of course, project management. It can help you drastically reduce the time that you need to prepare the content for translation in several ways. It could be through pre-translations that you can customize the way you prefer. It could be through alignment of previous resources, or it can also be just simply managing very difficult file formats. And something very useful for the project managers is, for example, the fact that they can decide how to assign and split the project for it to be more efficient. So you can either slice the project in different parts, you can assign it to a group of people, maybe a group of internal translators that you have, and everybody can translate the part that they prefer, or that you can also run a first accept round of emails and see the first translator that is available to accept your project. It can also increase visibility into the actual progress of your project, and also make easy the whole user assigning, user license assignment that comes with every project. And last but not least, for sure, the quality assurance. You can ensure consistency in projects, particularly with multiple languages or multiple translators, running very specific and customizable QA. So you can check for duplicate words or number formats, make sure that format is respected in your target language. But you can also run a QA to check for punctuation, spaces, the use of capital letters. You can even check the length of a segment, which is very useful for text that where you don't have a lot of space in your design, or for subtitles, up to the use of very advanced regular expressions. So it's very customizable, and you can really go in depth with your quality assurance to make sure that your deliverables are of high quality. So maybe summing up the two benefits that, of using both a BMS and TMS are flexibility. You can use every system to really do what you want to do, and also expertise. You rely on the expertise of the company behind it, because Plunet and memoQ are experts in our cases, in our own industries. So let's see how this integration work, and then let's show you a hands-on example of how the two systems are connected.
Yes. Yeah, I could have not said it better. I really hope that this shows how different these systems are and how they're actually, yeah, doing something completely else. But then, of course, where are we integrating that? Where are we integrating the administrative part or the business management part with the production? So a quick display of that, and then we will go into very quick live demo. So you can see everything when it comes to the upload of source files that will go straight into Plunet. And then either on quote or on order level, you can see that there's the first connection already. So all of the source files that have been uploaded by the customers, Plunet can, through the integration, automatically push to memoQ. memoQ will run the analysis, do a pre-translation or whatever Plunet tells memoQ to do through the integration, and brings back the analysis results, which then in Plunet will be connected with the matching price list to immediately calculate what a project should cost and how much it costs on the vendor side. So this, of course, especially if you have a huge document, is amazing because you can just see the pricing with a couple of clicks. And then we also have the workflow component in Plunet. Plunet workflows can pretty much include anything. You can create any type of workflow. So these could also be not language specific, for example, or you have something like DTP, or you have a quality check that is internal. So only the jobs that are translation related, translation review 1 and 2, are connected to memoQ. So only the jobs where actually the integration is needed. And then whatever job you assign in Plunet will also automatically be assigned on the memoQ server. So you can see the translators in a perfect world where you have the integration with the systems are logging into memoQ, and for production, they don't even need to log into Plunet. When they deliver something in memoQ or check it in, the system would automatically also update the status in Plunet. So you really have yeah, the best of both worlds. And the project manager, when they want to have just an overview, they can go into the project, they can see pricing, but they can also see the update that memoQ gives Plunet on the ongoing project, which is really cool. And then you can see if you have anything like a final document review, DTP formatting, anything that is not translation related, you can have that in Plunet. And then you can do a delivery to the customer through Plunet as well. There are different ways on how you want to deliver to a client. You can specify that in Plunet based on the customer. If they want to log into the customer portal, if they want an email with a file attached, if they want a download link, or if they want it to be moved in a different system. So yeah, let's actually go into the live demo. I will actually start in Plunet for this. And then, yeah, we go to memoQ. So once again, we really want to show this is what happens in the business management system, and this is what happens on the translation side. So let me share my screen. So for this, I'm actually using the automation manager as well. So I really want to show the most automation that is possible. So I'm logging in as the customer in my Plunet system. For your client, you can also customize the customer portal a little bit so they really feel at home. They know this is just for them. And then they can create a request. A request means we're asking the agency for either price estimation or for a project. In this case, I want to do everything. I want to start with a quote and request a quote. So our project today is your office community, because that's what everybody is currently missing, their colleagues in the office. So a quick text on, yeah, what are you missing in your community right now? Because we're all working from home, at least still here in New York we are. And then you can have your customers choose from a service. As I said before, it actually doesn't matter which production environment is connected to Plunet. So you can actually offer different language services. They might not even have anything to do with translation. It could be interpreting, it could be transcreation, it could be transcription, subtitling, dubbing. We have customers in all of the language spaces. So you can actually show your clients everything that you offer, which is almost also like a little bit like a sales tool, because maybe they see, oh, you also do something else that they weren't aware of that they needed. So keeping it simple here, I have translation and review, machine translation plus post editing, and then a translation review and DTP workflow. But of course, can have as many workflows as you like. This is to actually trigger the automation, because with selecting this, the customer already selects the workflow in Plunet, but I will show you what I mean by that. So yeah, let's put a due date. Let's say we need this by June 1st. And then we also have a custom field for different translation types. You can set any custom field up here. I'm adding this because I want to make sure the system selects the right price list. So not just for my language combination, which is the next thing I'm selecting, I also want to make sure that the system pulls the marketing prices. Especially when you work with automation, it's very, very important to set up your system as specifically as possible so the system knows exactly what to grab, because the system is a computer, and it needs to know exactly what to do, because it's not a human that can think on its own, at least so far. So then we can see here, I already have a language combination English-French as the default for this customer, but of course all the language combinations can be chosen here, and then the client can upload source documents. Can either open this, or you can just open your desktop and drag and drop a file, and the system uploads it right away, and then you can see that you have it uploaded here. So we don't care about the files. You can upload any type of file to Plunet, but of course, for the integration, it's important that memoQ supports the file type. I'm working with a quick Word document here. So I have a quick overview, and then I click Request Quote. So this is a customizable pop-up, of course, because this, I'm showing the automation. This does not need to say our automated quoting system, but since we're working with a full automation, I will show you immediately under my pending quotes, my Office Community project is already here. And if I go in here, I can now see, if I scroll down, the exact work counts that memoQ has already reported back to Plunet within seconds. Of course, it was super quick also because it was a very short document. So you can see we have 277 words, and we have 84 words for repetitions. Again, memoQ reports back with the fuzzy matches and repetitions and other matches. And we also see how many words have not been translated before. So yeah, this information comes to Plunet right away. And then you can either reject the quote. If you do that, you can put in a comment as well why you reject it, but we don't want to do that. We want to place the order. So now that I'm placing the order, Plunet will automatically create the project based on all of the information, and also change the status here to an order. All of this has happened just me as the client. I'm just logged in as T-Systems or T-Mobile here. We haven't had any project manager log in, anybody log into memoQ. All of this so far has been just done by the integration. So you can see my pending quote is gone. And here in my orders, I had 31 in progress. Now I have 32. And my newest project that is ongoing is my home office community, my English into French project. So if I go in here now, I can see everything, including the price. So yeah, that is all the automation for the customer. So you can see it's really cool, because especially if you're a smaller company, you can offer your client quoting 24/7 if you want to. Of course, we have to be aware that not all of the projects can be automatically quoted. We're well aware that there are projects that need human intervention, and this is just, of course, maybe for recurrent work or easy projects where you know that there's no human intervention needed. But again, we want to show you the full automation possibilities. Of course, knowing that you also have the flexibilities to do all of that manually and have a human check. Oh, let me log in as the project manager. So yeah, this is the project manager login. I can see all of the different statuses. I will actually go into the quotes here. So I can see I have 2 quotes that have been changed into an order today. Of course, you also receive emails. The customer also received an email with a quote attached. but I want to show you here, if I go into this quote, this is what the customer has received and what Plunet created in the background, the quote. And you can see that Plunet automatically chose the T-Mobile price list for marketing translation. Why? Because the customer selected marketing translation. That's how specific the automation can go. And here you can see Plunet selected a cut interface template to already predefine everything that is supposed to happen in memoQ. So for each client, you can basically say how you want the integration to act. And all of these things will be predefined and can, as you can see, completely be automated, including which TM to choose. You can add reference TMs. You can create a working TM if you want. And of course, you can always see the project status as well. So yeah, not much we need to do here. I actually want to go into the order because we are already in the running project. So now I can see here that in my job list, the system has already created a translation job because let's say this is an ongoing thing. The client always just uploads the file. I always know who's going to work on it. In my case, Alessio will do the translation. I'm not sure if you can actually do French, but for this demo, I'm sure you can. So if I open this here, you can see that the system has already calculated the prices for our freelance translator, or Alessio in this case. So based on the word count, the 193 words translation new and the repetitions, the system has calculated, this is a tiny thing, but has calculated how much to pay the vendor. If I go to the next step for the proofreading, the full word count for proofreading has also already been taken over here. And my favorite thing in the system for sure, the profit margin. In real time, I can see my sales, I can see my expenses, and the system calculates my gross profit in US dollars, or in my case here, euros, and the profit margin in percent. So you can see exactly how much you have to pay a vendor. So yeah, if I know who I want to work with, I can then quickly assign them and send them the purchase order, the PO. Of course, you can also request people and yeah, go through the whole offering process, but let's just say for the sake of this presentation, we know we want to work with Alessio. And this phase is one we want to connect with memoQ. The proofreading is an internal Plunet job that I'm doing as a project manager myself. That doesn't need to go to memoQ because our translator, we know they do a great job and we just have to do a final checkup. So I will do a job assignment. The system knows if it's an internal person, not to send a PO, and if it's an external person, to automatically create a PO. So you can see now, Alessio will receive an email. I mean, he won't because I put my email address for him, so I'm not spamming him. But the system creates a purchase order, an official purchase order, can pull all of the data from the profile, from the vendor, and of course from that particular project. And you can send that out with the fee. And then you can see now that my translation job is in progress. I'll quickly also add a due date. Unless you have to do this in a couple of days to make sure we have that as well. And all of that data is now moving to memoQ. So yeah, now as a project manager, I'm done. And I assigned Alessio on the memoQ server, and I can actually sign off and do my other tasks while the translation can get started in memoQ.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Sophie. So let me show you what happens on the translator side. Remember that you can send us Q&As while we're doing the demos and during the whole webinar, so that both Sophie and I can go through your questions and answer by the end of the webinar. So this is the main window that a translator would see when they open memoQ. So they normally would receive an email in this case, but as Sophie didn't send one, they can just simply connect to the server. If it's particularly if it's a client, they will probably have it memorized it here in memoQ, and they can just check out if they have anything available for them. In this case, we see that we have the project that Sophie created, so we can just click on Open Project. and memoQ will download it automatically from the server and open it up for us to use. So here we can see two main areas, apart from, of course, the ribbon here. On the left, we'll see which resources we have, and we'll go into some detail in a few seconds. And in the main window, we see the file that we are assigned. So we can see the format, we can see the status, in this case, translation in progress. We can see if there is any comment that maybe previous translators or the project manager left in the file. We can see the word count, and we can also see the progress. memoQ normally breaks down the project, can break down the project up to 3 different phases: translator, reviewer 1, and reviewer 2. In this case, we see that there is only a translator assigned to this project, but because memoQ server also gives you the opportunity, it has the capability of simultaneous work, you can also see where everybody is on the project at any moment. Of course, all of these can be personalized, and you can choose and move your columns and decide how you prefer the data to be shown. But then let's go quickly on the left here. We can see that we have live docs, translation memories, term bases, and muses. These are probably the 4 main linguistic resources that you can use on memoQ. Live docs is a very interesting and a very powerful feature in memoQ. The main function that it has is to align and pair up 2 documents, the source text and an already translated version of the source text, so that if you don't have a translation memory, you can import both documents, align them together, and use them as a translation memory inside the project, or export an actual translation memory. In this case, the text we are translating, it's short, so I see, for example, that there's nothing attached as for an alignment pair, but there is something else, which is a PDF. You can use the live docs actually also to attach reference material. So instead of sending them via an email, for example, you can just put everything inside the project. So I see that I'm translating a page from the memoQ and the remote office ebook. And if I scroll down a few pages, I can see that this is the design of the page, and I can check the context. So it's very useful. You can also attach instructions for your linguists and so on. If we go to the translation memory here, we see that there's been already a translation memory assigned by the project manager. You cannot access as a translator these resources, of course, because these are on the server. But you can use, if you have any other resource that you think it would be useful for you to work on this project, you can add some other resources that you will be able to see while you translate. If you go to the term base, we'll see the same thing. There's the term base already assigned. And about the muses, this is a functionality in memoQ that works very similarly to your predictive dictionary on your mobile phones. So you can set it up and train it with your translation memory, so that while you're typing, you get suggestions, and it can make the whole process much faster. So if we go back to the translation, we see that we can open up the document. So we just double click on it, and memoQ will download a local copy on your computer for you to work on it. Okay, perfect. So here we have the main working windows. It's the editor windows, where we can see on the left the source text, and on the right the target text. Everything has been broken down in segments. Here below, we can see the view pane. This view pane shows you an HTML dynamic preview, which means that when you translate, you'll see the translation already here, and it recreates the layout of your source file. And it's very useful because, for example, here we see that we have an image, and so we are sure that the text we are translating, it's actually the node to this image. So it really helps with the context. It can also show you if a review has been done. In this case, we don't have any, or if there's any active comments that you might want to check out. Here on the right, we have the translation results. So here is where memoQ shows you all the results coming from term bases, translation memories, live docs, or machine translation. In this case, what we see is that we get some results from the term base that is attached to our project. And we've seen that there is a term that it's been banned, it's forbidden and we cannot use, and there is a term that it's been actually approved by the client and so has preference when translating. Here we can get all the information. So you will see that when you translate, memoQ will automatically suggest you the results, being that translation, the term base or the translation memory. So you can just hit enter and then confirm the segment. When you confirm the segment, now it's been idle, so it was making sure that it's connected to the server. Your segment goes automatically into the translation memory on the server, which means that you're not at risk of losing your job if you forget to press on the save button, for example. As the translator, you can also decide to modify some of the translation options, for example, the auto-propagation settings. So you can decide if you want to propagate your translations backward and forward. So you do have autonomy on how you want to work on the file. You can run concordance searches on the translation memories that you have. And you can also run term searches. So I don't know, for example, if we select tool and we click on lookup term, you will see that you are able to both look in memoQ, if you in the term bases that you have already on memoQ, but you can also look on the Euroterm bank. So you can just consult quickly and decide which one you want to use. So in this case, because we, of course, are not going to translate this, we can use machine translation. So we can run a pre-translation where we are using one of our machine translation API that we already added to our resource console. And we run that pre-translation. So memoQ connects through the API to our machine translation engine, and it will give you the results here on the right. So in this case, we will just accept all the segments. So the segments are confirmed and saved to the translation memory on the server. And we can, of course, wrap up running a spell check that on memoQ works, can work with two different dictionaries that you can pick up. So in this case, of course, all the proper nouns won't be recognized, but you can create custom dictionaries. We can run a QA, and I'll show you how the results are shown for a QA. memoQ opens up another tab altogether where you can work directly on the segment that has the mistake. So in this case, for example, it says that before this sign, we cannot use a space, so we can directly change it here and confirm, and memoQ will show that the error has been solved. Also, because we said that the TMS can connect with other platforms through APIs, in this case, you can also run, for example, a correction through one of our plugins, which is Antidote. If you translate into French Canadian, you might be familiar with that. So this adds another layer of quality control before sending the translation to your customer. One last thing before sending this project back to Sophie, if you click here on this tab, you will see that you get to the communication space of memoQ. So here, what happens is that you can chat using the chat window on the left with the other linguists or the project manager that are assigned to the project. So if somebody is online, you can chat about the specific terms that you are not sure about. If nobody is online, like now, for example, you can open a topic on the forum on the right. So you can hit on start topic, write down what's your problem, and then when people see it and your project manager see it, they can answer directly here. So here you're finished. Everything has been confirmed. So as you know, it auto saves everything. So you can just close your tab and then you hit on deliver, return, and the document is sent back to the project manager.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. I will quickly wrap up the project. I'm in a different view. I'm showing you our workflow view right now. So you can see here the translation job now has been delivered. And as the project manager, I can now start my proofreading job that automatically gets set to in progress. You also see here automatically we have the memoQ export job, which is an automatic job that if the whole workflow is done in memoQ, Plunet can grab the last file from memoQ and export it into source format, export the target file into source format. If I don't need this, I can also delete the job and, for example, say in this case, I want to do an automatic delivery to the customer. So you can actually on the fly change your workflow in Plunet if you need. So now as the proofreader, if I'm working in memoQ, without memoQ in this case, I can just go in and then grab the file that has been delivered and do my final proofreading. And once I'm done, put this job to delivered and, or of course, upload the file so it then automatically gets sent to the client with the workflow that I've created. I'll quickly do this, put this to approved, which then automatically triggers the delivery. So then I can also approve the translation job. As soon as I do that, Alessio would receive an email that this is ready to invoice, and then he can log into his Plunet portal and create the invoice there. I will quickly jump back to the job list because I also want to go back into the project to approve the project on customer side. So once everything is done and delivered to the client, you can then approve the last, which would be the last step on the operation side. And now accounting knows that this can be invoiced. So through Plunet, if you click here to invoices, you can create the invoice straight from here because very often project managers are actually the ones creating the invoices. But if I go to the dashboard, you can also see here under billable items, you can also click in here and then see everything that is billable. And for example, if your accounting staff has a Plunet login, as I said, lots of different stakeholders, they can just go in, create an invoice here if the customer doesn't get collective invoices, which is also possible. And then based on all of the data, create the invoice and send it out to the customer, which I will do with one click here. I know we are time-wise at the end, but I see there was one question in the panel which I quickly wanted to answer live. So if we still have that minute, Alessio, for
Yeah, sure,
one
go on.
quick question? Okay, great. So I see that the one person asked if the client decides the type of translation, for example, marketing, what happens if they have a very technical marketing text that I would instead classify as IT or engineering and a quote is more expensive? It's actually a great question. And that's one of the biggest problems with the full integrations, that you kind of have to trust the information you receive. Because Plunet cannot look into the text and classify it for you. So I would recommend to have kind of a disclaimer in the quotes that it's an automated quote and that after review, it might change based on the actual text, or to just activate the automated quoting for clients where you know exactly the type of text they send you. So it's not just something, to have activated for everybody. Maybe make sure it's a client where maybe they just have two different types and they always are very accurate with selecting it, because there are a lot of things that the system can check before sending out a quote to make sure everything makes sense, to make sure there is actually something in there, that the word count is not too much for the deadline they set. So there are a lot of different plausibility checks that can be run. I'm happy to go into detail if you're interested in that in a different time. But yeah, so if they choose the wrong one, the system chooses the wrong price list, of course. So there's not much you can do about that. It's a little bit like when you ask for a quote to move and you forget to tell your movers that you don't have an elevator in your business, in your building, then they will send you the wrong quote, and that's a little bit like it is with that feature as well. Okay. Let's see.
Great. So as a wrap up, we will be sending you this presentation because I think we are already out of time, so you can go through the details of what are the advantages of separating a BMS and a TMS. Basically, and just going through the titles here, you add flexibility and you limit risks in your business. You make sure that you get the most out of the expertise and the full capabilities of the softwares that you are using, and you can offer more than only one service. So I would like to thank you all for joining us today. You can get some of the references here that we used if you want to dive in a bit more. As a gift for staying with us until the end of the webinar, we are also giving you a download link to download an ebook that shows you in detail the integration between memoQ and Plunet. And you will be able to reach out to both Sophie and I, clicking here on the right on our names, and you will be able to contact us via email. As for the questions that we couldn't answer because of time, no worries. We'll make sure to contact you and answer your questions with no doubt. So thank you very much, Sophie, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And thanks everybody for joining us. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.